Welcome back to the deep dive. So I want to start today with a number that is, honestly, it's just staggering.
It really is.
4 million tons.
Right.
That is the amount of household textile waste that India generates every single year.
And if you look at the sources we have, that volume isn't just some abstract metric. I mean, it represents this massive, completely uncapped resource potential.
But right now, it's a crisis.
A huge one. The consequence is severe. More than half of that 4 million tons is being landfilled or, incinerated.
Which, as we'll get into, is just pouring pollution into the environment. Okay, let's unpack that right away, because we're not talking about, say, simple cotton that just biodegrades.
Not at all.
We're talking about complex, modern textiles, polyester, synthetics, all these blends.
And they break down into microplastics, they leach toxic dyes into the groundwater, they emit huge volumes of chlorine when they're burned. It's a crisis that really demands expert, policy-driven solutions.
It absolutely does. And that's why, for this deep dive, we are looking at the blueprint being driven by the Center for Sustainable Development Initiatives, or CSEI.
And their textile-focused initiative, which is called CIRCLE.
Yeah.
Our sources really center on the vision of Mr. Pramod Dabrase, who heads CSED.
And his credibility here is key. I think it's important to understand why this feels like a credible national strategy and not, just another pilot project.
Yeah, definitely.
He's talking about someone with 23 years of experience. He's drafted national policy guidelines for solid and liquid waste management.
And provided guidance for 15 states.
Mm-hmm.
That level of systemic policy knowledge, that's what's now being applied directly to the problem of old clothes.
What's so fascinating is seeing that high-level policy mind apply itself to building a tangible circular economy model. He's not just talking theory.
No, he's building the actual mechanism.
So our mission today is to understand that mechanism. How can India fundamentally redefine this 4 million tons of waste and convert a massive liability into what the sources call a triple dividend?
A climate solution, a generator of meaningful employment, and a new engine for the green economy, all at once.
Okay, so let's start by drilling down into that environmental fallout. When we look at that 4 million tons, especially in a country that's moving so quickly toward fast fashion, what is the real environmental cost of how we dispose of things now?
Well, the environmental cost is, it's multifaceted. We mentioned microplastics, sure, but think about the sheer chemical soup that textile waste represents.
Right.
You've got synthetic dyes, often heavy in metals and, non-biodegradable compounds. They leach directly into the soil, into local water tables.
So it's not just a volume issue, it's a material complexity issue that is actively contaminating resources like water.
Precisely. And India's consumption profile means we're generating huge volumes of blended fabrics.
Like cotton poly blends.
Exactly. Cotton and polyester, for example, which makes recycling incredibly difficult and basically ensures they just sit in landfills for centuries, releasing methane and co-euros as they slowly degrade.
And this problem is concentrated somewhere, I assume.
Oh, heavily. Geographically, it's tied directly to urban consumption patterns. We see the major sources of this waste accumulating in the biggest metropolitan areas. So Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, Hyderabad, Kolkata.
The usual suspects.
Yes. But critically, this also extends into many of the fast-growing Tier 2 cities as well. And that's where a waste management infrastructure is often still trying to catch up.
So what's the implication of that concentration? I mean, does that make a solution easier or harder to deploy?
That's a great question. It creates a massive logistical challenge, but it also, I think, defines the opportunity.
How so?
Because the waste is concentrated in these high-density areas, any successful solution has to prioritize collection efficiency and immediate processing. It forces the system to be scalable.
And integrated.
And integrated, exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, the sheer volume in these urban hubs just overwhelms the infrastructure almost immediately. It's a growing urban crisis that requires a structured, policy-backed response.
That brings us perfectly to the core idea being promoted here, the resource reframe. We have to stop seeing textiles as just waste. Right. And start seeing them as valuable, reclaimable resources.
This is the absolute essence of the circular economy applied to textiles. It demands a hard pivot away from that traditional, take, make, dispose linear model.
Towards something else entirely.
Towards a comprehensive system built on what they call the 4R model: reuse, repair, recycle, and upcycling. This R model is the foundational framework for CIRCLE's strategy.
And the power of this approach, according to the sources, is that it simultaneously delivers on those three benefits we mentioned. It mitigates climate impact, generates employment, and it fuels a new green economy.
Yeah.
But let's differentiate those R's a bit. What does successful repair look like versus, say, successful upcycling in this context?
And that differentiation is crucial for creating livelihoods.
Hmm.
So repair is about extending the life of a garment, directly mending seams, replacing buttons, passing it on through a donation or a swap shop model.
Keeping it as a piece of clothing.
Exactly. Upcycling, however, is about creatively transforming that garment into a totally new product with a higher or different value.
Okay, like what?
Think of old denim jeans being transformed not just into, say, patches, but into durable industrial mats or high-quality insulation. That transformation requires different skills, and it creates these unique entrepreneurial opportunities, often focused specifically on women and youth.
Okay, but to achieve that kind of systematic circularity, structure is everything. This can't just be a grassroots movement.
No, absolutely not.
So what are the three big structural steps you need to manage 4 million tons of material?
The structure has to be end-to-end. So step one is household segregation. And to really get into the weeds here, this isn't just separating your wet and dry waste.
No.
It involves overcoming the massive hurdle of separating textile types, especially those blends we talked about. The quality of the input material dictates the quality of the final output. You need clean, separated inputs right at the household level.
Which is always the most difficult stage-changing consumer behavior on a mass scale.
It is. So that leads to step two, collection infrastructure and mobilization. This is where CIRCLE's work really comes in, establishing formal, accessible collection points.
And things like swap shops.
Exactly. And community-driven mechanisms like local swap shops. These hubs are essential for the reuse and the repair elements because they intercept usable items before they even enter the waste stream.
And step 3 then closes the loop. It makes sure that what can't be reused or repaired actually becomes a raw material again.
That's it. Step three is processing linkage and industrial offtake. This is about creating seamless, reliable supply chains that connect those sorting hubs directly to commercial recyclers who can do high-value fiber-to-fiber recycling,
Right.
or to industrial users who can turn cotton waste into wiping rags or what's called shoddy for things like carpet padding. That linkage guarantees that the textile waste actually feeds back into manufacturing rather than leaking out into a landfill.
Let's pivot now to the practical application of the system, the livelihood aspect. I think this is maybe the most compelling social dividend here. We've mentioned upcycling livelihoods targeted at women and youth. Can you give us a sense of the scale of that opportunity?
Well, the sources really emphasize that this isn't about, sporadic charity. It's about creating decentralized, stable income streams.
Right.
By focusing on groups like women's self-help organizations, you empower them to become micro-entrepreneurs. For instance, textile scraps that are too damaged for upcycling can be processed into industrial wipes.
Which are always in demand.
Always. This creates a dedicated supply chain where the labor is skilled, it's localized, and it's financially stable.
That localization is so powerful, but managing 4 million tons, that requires industrial scale, it requires funding. This is where I imagine the policy instrument of extended producer responsibility, or EPR, comes in.
EPR is absolutely critical. It has to be there.
How is EPR structured in this textile context?
It's the financial mandate. That's what it is. It dictates that brands, the producers, must take responsibility for funding or structuring the end-of-life management of their own products.
Okay, but how is it different from, say, plastics EPR?
Well, unlike plastics or e-waste, textile EPR needs to manage this highly heterogeneous material. So the system requires brands to invest in the collection infrastructure, those swap shops and sorting hubs we mentioned, and ensure there's a sustained market for the recycled material.
So brands can't just make the clothes and then walk away. They have to participate financially in the entire life cycle, which makes the circular model actually viable.
Precisely. And this is the essential dividing line where CIRCLE and CSEDI operate. CSA is the policy and development expert that designs the framework. They leverage Mr. Dabrase's deep policy background to create standards and guidance for the government and for the brands.
Okay, so they're the architects.
They're the architects. CIRCLE, the initiative, is the end-to-end solution provider on the ground. They're the ones bridging the gap, providing the practical, comprehensive solutions for cities, for NGOs, for CSR partners, to ensure that policy intent is actually realized.
That clarity helps a lot. So CSEDI sets the high-level policy, and CIRCLE implements the functional model on the ground, the segregation, the swap shops, the recycler linkage.
Exactly. It's the difference between having a government mandate and having a functional supply chain. One doesn't work without the other.
Now let's transition to the macro view. We've detailed all these micro-level solutions. So what does this entire structure mean for the broader national landscape, especially connecting back to Mr. Dabrase's role in guiding 15 states on solid waste management?
I think this textile initiative is really serving as a blueprint for comprehensive solid waste management across the entire country.
A proof of concept almost.
Yes. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this work is taking the Sustainable Development Agenda and demonstrating a practical, financially viable mechanism for managing a high-volume, very difficult waste stream. It's proving that circular systems can work, not just in theory, but at the scale it's necessary for a rapidly growing economy.
And the ultimate goal here is not small. It's about ensuring that old clothes literally become a green asset.
That's the policy ambition. And Mr. Dabrase's background is so essential here because he understands the regulatory scaffolding you need to scale models like this. His experience drafting national solid and liquid waste guidelines allows him to make sure that the textile model they're developing isn't just unique to one city.
Right. It has to be replicable.
It has to be systematically scalable, replicable, and integrated into existing municipal waste management systems across those 15 states and then beyond.
It is the difference between having, a handful of successful local programs and having a standardized nationwide strategy that can actually handle 4 million tons of material year after year after year.
You absolutely need that high-level policy endorsement and standardization. It leverages policy mandates like EPR alongside community participation and that entrepreneurial growth. This systematic approach is what promises to transform a massive environmental liability into a long-term, self-sustaining economic driver for the nation.
This has been a truly comprehensive look at transforming what feels like an intractable challenge. We've seen the shift from that staggering number 4 million tons of pollution to a clear, policy-backed and employment-generating solution.
Yeah.
We've really, truly turned the problem into a profound national opportunity.
The fundamental takeaway here for you, the listener, is that when you're facing these overwhelming waste challenges, the economic solution is almost always hidden within the waste itself.
And if a major waste stream like complex blended textiles can be comprehensively repurposed for climate stability, for employment, for economic growth, all through clear policy and community systems.
Well, this raises an important and I think provocative question for you to consider.
Mhm.
What other massive polluting waste streams, whether it's construction debris, food waste, complex industrial byproducts, are currently just sitting there in your own city, waiting for the right blend of policy and grassroots ingenuity to unlock their value?
The framework is laid out.
It is. It's time to apply that circular thinking everywhere else.
A truly powerful thought to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.